Yeah, I always got the cut. Okay, it's been a while. We haven't been on. Life happens. We vacations, holidays. We always say live your life. So we live our lives too. I want to thank y'all again for joining us for Combustible Elements. I'm Big Mel. I'm joined by Ruben the Monarch and Aaron the Hitman. And we're going to talk about a topic that Ruben came up with that I know nothing about. I'm telling you that right now. So if I'm silent and you were looking for me to be silent and silent is golden, this is the show for you. Um, we're going to talk about artists who have untimely death or young artists who have untimely death. Do I got it right, Ruben?
Man, artists, young artists, overall, I feel like reason why I wanted to bring this up. We talked about this a few weeks back, but we never got a chance to talk about this particular topic. And it seemed to be like a trend lately in music where like you got these up and coming artists, these young artists, and they keep coming up dead, man. They keep coming up dead in the most gruesome ways, and it's almost becoming like a trend where it's a deadly job to be a hip hop artist, to be a rapper, to be to be in the music business. Like guys, and they're not dying, from like your rock and roll days of like these people are partying heavy and they're overdosing on drugs. Not to say that makes it better, but they're dying in like in shootouts or just assassinations and like people are literally gunning these folks down in the most gruesome of ways while they're out doing regular things. Our most recent one was the artist Young Dro. He got gunned down while he was buying cookies. When he came into town to do a turkey drive. That's insane to me. Like that's one of those things where it's like, you're doing a regular activity. Like you, for instance, Mel, earlier, you went in and you went and bought some cookies for your daughter. Imagine going to get some cookies and that ended up being the last act you do, just to get some cookies.
Well, I mean, that could be a bad thing, but I don't know. That might have went differently with me. I don't know the circumstances in it. You know, what I am going to say about what you just said. Actually, I'm going to hold off for a second. I'm going to see what Aaron says
Well,
about this.
I mean, I understand like it's unfortunate. The one thing I will say, because I don't really keep up with hip hop artists, I don't really keep up with hip hop in general. Like I listen to old music that I used to like and artists that I used to like. I don't keep up with the new people, but I mean, you got to look at, yeah, he was doing the turkey drive, or some of these other artists who just get shot in shootouts and things like that. Like, what is their lifestyle? Like, I mean, yeah, you doing a turkey drive now, but like, what was you doing before that? Like, if Mel get in, I know we keep using Mel, but if Mel get stuck up or something like that buying cookies, like Mel he worked, provide for his family. Like we know what Mel do. Mel go train, Mel go do this. Like we don't know what hip hop artists are doing nowadays. Like we don't know if they talking the things that they rapping about, if they really doing all the gun slinging, all the doing drugs, still selling drugs. Like you don't know what type of stuff they into. So that might be one of the reasons why they get into altercations that they get into. And yes, it's untimely, but at the same time, like what kind of life are they really living these days? Like, I mean, back in the day, some of the hip hop artists really was about the things that they was doing. But I feel like even back then, like drug dealers and things like that had more respect for the neighborhoods that they was in, more respect for the youth and things like that. They actually, it seems weird, but they had respect for the women and children in the neighborhoods as opposed to the people that's out there today in the streets.
Okay, so
I disagree, but
I'm going to respectfully disagree with the last thing you just said, Aaron.
yeah,
They didn't give a shit back then either. They may have presented a certain way because they had to be accepted in that community because people became more involved back then. Like they would sit back and be uninvolved like they are now, but not to the level that they are now. So you couldn't just be like a animal running around doing whatever you wanted. You know what I mean? Now there's so many people that's uninvolved and just accepted this lifestyle that those people that's doing those things, you know, they believe they supposed to be doing them things if they out on them corners. Now, to what Ruben said, and I'm going to agree with you, what you said, Aaron. It's like, what are they doing? Are they living those lifestyles? I'll never forget. I listened to Bernard Hopkins one time, and he said, if you make a lot of money and you can go to a restaurant, why would you go to McDonald's in the hood or go someplace and eat lobster someplace that you can afford? So if you're trying to not be in that life that you're saying, and that's another thing too. I'm gonna go back to that in a second. If you're not trying to be in that life that you're really preaching about, then you're not trying to be in that life. Now, I understand there's no artist that tells the whole truth when they telling a song. You know what I mean? When they making a song, they making an album. There's nobody that's telling the whole truth. And the ones that say they telling the whole truth, they just told on themselves and they be in jail. So they're not telling the whole truth. That's insanity. However, you know, this perception that we have of these artists and all of them like, yo, I was slinging dope on the corner. Okay, if you were slinging drugs on the corner, when did you have time to get in the studio and make that demo? When did you have time to find the right producer for you? When did you have time to sit down and write? You know what I'm saying? Like, no, I don't, I never believed that. But we live in a society where the gangster is glamorized. And the gangster was always glamorized in society. Even back when I was younger before that, the gangster was always glamorized. But we live in a society where somebody can come out and say they've been in there dodging bullets, been shot up. 50 Cent, he's a perfect example. Would he have really got the shot that he got if he didn't get shot 9 times? I'm not saying the man is not skilled. You know what I'm saying? The man is definitely skilled. He's doing his things on many platforms, but he got a whole different kind of respect because he got shot up and he survived it. So I think that's the bigger problem what's going on with these young artists. The mentality of you got to come up the hard way. Now, you guys disagree?
So first, I want to talk about what Aaron said as far as, you don't know what type of life these guys were living. You're right. You don't know what type of life these guys were living. But on the same token, and Mel already touched on this, like we got this screwed reality of, things are worse now than they were before. Look, man, when guys like Eazy-E were talking about, fuck the police and everything they were talking about back with the NWA days, those guys are essentially like the godfathers of like gangster rap and everything. It was living that. It was really living that. And Eazy-E didn't get shot up. He died, unfortunately, but he died mysteriously of HIV or AIDS or whatever.
Not to cut you off, but I'm gonna say this. Most of them guys that was in that clique from like Eazy-E days, the NWA days, they all had murder cases they had to beat, Like they were like in and out of court beating cases because, like you said, they was really
it was really about their life. But what I'm saying is they still ended up dead. Like these guys are still around. They get to live old. They get to be like a lot of these artists that are dying are like 27, 28, 29, 30. Like none of these guys get to be grandfathers, never mind even a chance to raise their kids past to be 5, 6 years old. If that, like it used to be like when Biggie and Pop got murdered, those were like, man, this is crazy. And like the world of hip hop changed and flipped upside down. And it was like, all right, we got to figure out how to stop this. Now, this shit happens like every other week. It's almost like, who's the artist of the month that's gonna get shot as a hip hop artist? Like like being in the music industry, being like just being an entertainer is deadlier than some of the most what's the word I'm looking for here? Like pretty soon as these guys are going to become extinct. at the rate that these guys keep getting killed.
Okay,
Because
now I'm gonna cut you off for a second because you said them being in the music industry, the way they getting popped. Well, just about every young boy you see now want to be a rapper. So you got a lot of people that want to do that they figure that's their way out. So they want to be a musician.
right,
Now, is that different from the dude that got a little bit of money that still live in the hood and got a business and then he can't go nowhere because they can pop him and rob him? So is it a thing of we know you have something, so we're gonna try to take what you have, and the more appeal, like if you want to rob somebody, you really don't want to rob somebody that ain't got nothing. You want to rob somebody that do got something. Now I know people that they ain't got nothing get robbed all the time, but I'm just
these
saying.
guys are getting robbed, bro. Like we're not talking about getting robbed. We're talking about getting straight up assassinated.
All right, but
But that's what they doing out there to everybody. You
Like
know what I'm saying?
robbing,
Like,
you can rob somebody and then you take something. Like these guys, like these artists we're talking about here, they're not. Nobody's taking anything from them. They're not like it's not like they get shot and then you take their jewelry and no, like these guys are just straight up getting walked down on, getting assassinated, and then the assailants, just leave.
But where are the artists coming from though? Like what is their background? Because like a lot of artists, like you said, we was just talking about, well, you was just talking about Eazy-E and all of them. They were all in gangs. And yeah, they was all in gangs and selling drugs, and they was in that life, and then they transitioned into music. And you look at Snoop now, he got a cooking show. Like you wouldn't think Snoop, right? So they all transition from that. So are these people transitioning from the streets trying to transition into music? Because your lifestyle is still behind you. You can't just jump out of one lifestyle into another lifestyle. But are these people artists that like you don't see no R&B artists getting shot up every week? Like what background are they coming from? Like where are they coming from? Like are you trying to move out of the streets into music and your lifestyle is following you? Unfortunately,
okay, but
people are getting killed.
But I'm gonna give Ruben a minute to catch his breath. But these rappers, a lot of them are talking about the violence that they see, and if they don't show up in them neighborhoods, they don't really have no street cred neither, unless they show up in those neighborhoods. Now the R&B singers, they older, they more established, they more mature, so they know to stay away from certain areas so they don't get caught. But you get caught. Now I do want to say this.
I'm talking about up and coming R&B singers. Like the point that I was making was a lot of people are trying to transition out of the hood lifestyle into music because they feel like they got something to talk about because they was living that lifestyle, but their lifestyle is still a part of them. It's still following them into their music career.
Okay,
and then that leads to them getting shot.
I understand that, but now each situation is different. And just because you're an entertainer, an artist, or whatever, that still doesn't leave you where you can't get hurt. Like, and I'm agree with Ruben when people say the world is worse than what it used to be. All you got to do is pick up a history book and read how many people was like murdered or groups extinct because somebody just got pissed off over one thing and sent in their whole army. So we assume that we're supposed to be more civilized, but when we put a lot of people in the single area, you always gonna have somebody that want to hurt the other person or take something from the other person. Now, we still savages at our core. We would like to say that we better than that, and some of us are, but some people aren't. That's just the reality. Now, these artists or entertainers, whatever you want to call them, the things that's happening to them, yes. Ruben said they get assassinated. Well, there's regular people that get assassinated and all they got on them is $5. When the last time you just heard of a straight up robbery now? Now when you hear about a robbery, it's a shooting. You know what I mean? Because they not satisfied with what they took from you. And see, when you start talking about violence all the time, like somebody that know you are artist and you like, I've been on this corner, I did this, I had shootouts, all that. How do you think they're gonna come at you when they come at you? They're not gonna come at you and say, yo, no, they're gonna come at you like this. And they are preaching that. So somebody that's listening to them, that's how they're gonna come at them because they're gonna think that's their life.
I think
You know what
everybody
I mean?
knows that most artists are entertainers, man. I don't think. I think maybe like I said, maybe back in the '90s we believed artists when they said they were moving and how they were moving, but everybody knows for the most part, like rap, hip hop is just somebody telling a story of something that they've seen or something that they're making up. Nobody's believing that these are, majority of these artists are actually living the life about what they talking about. Like you got guys, listen,
Some
you
people are
got,
believing
you
that.
got, you got plenty of artists that grown up in suburbs, two-parent household, talking about how they was living in the slums when daddy was at home.
And that's true. You're 100%. Most of them got jobs.
That's a
Someone
common,
was working at McDonald's.
thing.
Someone was working at McDonald's.
And it's funny because as I'm saying it, like my son this morning, he was playing video games and he's telling one of his friends, like, yo, relax, man. You from the suburbs. Like you grew up in you from the suburbs, you were born and raised in the suburbs. Stop talking like that, like you about that. Because I had to check him about that. Well, it's like you got everybody that really want to believe that, like, getting it out the mud and growing up in the slums and growing up hard, that's the way to go. And it's like, no, the hell it ain't. There's nothing glamorous about out the mud and from the slums. Like people that are living in from the slum, nobody takes a choice of growing up in the slums. Nobody wants to be born there. Nobody wants to be from there. Like it's not a choice. That's just how life, the cards that life deals you. And then in most cases, a lot of them die there. In a few instances, some of them get to make it out. And they might talk about it, they might rap about it, it might have a story about it. But most cases, if you're born from the slums, you don't get to come out. You don't get to make it out.
Can I ask you a question?
What's up?
Okay, so this is going to go to your Haitian background. When you sit down here and people say they from the slums here, and you see how they living, compared to what people was living in, say, like,
most
hey,
Americans have no idea what slums are. Before you
that was going to be my next point.
I've traveled and like one of the places that I've been to, I went to Brazil, and some of my friends wanted to go visit the favelas when they were out there. And if anybody know what a favela is, it's essentially the slums of Brazil. That's where it's like, think about whatever worst part you've ever seen, wherever you live, and times that by 10. Like, I had no drive, no determination, no wants or needs to go see people living in those situations. Because like Mel said, coming from Haiti, they have parts in Haiti that are similar to those favelas in Brazil. And I didn't go there. I knew where those places were at. My father, when I was younger, used to work in those areas because he worked for an organization that, that tried to provide housing and provide better situations, living situations for those people that live there. And having seen those places growing up, I don't need to go visit them again, in my older age, because I already know what that's like. It's demeaning to the people living there to watch people drive by and take pictures and point. That's a shitty way of going about your days while you're on vacation. Personally, that's of no interest to me to go watch somebody, in their natural, devastating state. Like, that shit is heartbreaking. I don't want to watch you living in the slums. People don't even understand what slums is. Like, ain't no welfare, ain't no cheese, ain't no, if you had if you grew up on government cheese and welfare and all that other stuff, you're 10 times better than those people because they don't get access to those things. They don't get that. If you ain't got food, you ain't got food. That's it. Ain't no cantinas. There's no nothing. There's nothing.
And now, with that being said, I'm one of those people, because I think we said it on the show before. Every American child should have to leave the country and go to another country that was, quote unquote, third world, so they can see how people were living and then come back home and appreciate how they're living, because they don't know what poor is. They don't know what the slums are. They don't understand what it means to really be hungry. People be like,
they don't even understand the term dirt poor. That's the reason why they say dirt poor. Like, when you really live in a dirt house, like it's really people out here eating mud biscuits made from mud. That's a thing.
It's a fact. It's a fact. But back to what we were talking about and what you mentioned with your son, I think that's, I don't know whether it's something in the water. I don't know what they did to dummy people down, but people think they supposed to come up the hard way now. Like they don't have street cred. They not going to be respected. Yo, I came up this way. I had this shit happen. No, you're not supposed to have all this stuff happen. You're not supposed to be dodging bullets all the time. You're not supposed to be on every corner selling drugs and not giving a shit. And that's the only way you can eat. Like, no, it's something wrong with that. And then when you're an artist and you promote that, and then people hear it and they be like, yo, I'm gonna follow you, I'm gonna follow this. And then you come up in the hood, the ones that want to do you harm, they gonna believe what you said because you said it. They listen to you because they know who you are. So I mean, what the hell?
I mean, a little bit off topic, but still on topic. Like I feel like a lot of famous people do that too. Like it seemed like everybody only had $5 in their pocket when they came and in show business. Everybody had $250. They all lived in a car. It's like everybody got the same story. And then all of a sudden they on TV and on stage and telling everybody how glamorous it is. Oh, I lived in a one-bedroom apartment with all my nephews and my cousins.
We had each other and all that other
and it's
bullshit
like,
that they say.
Like that don't be crazy, but like some people live that life, but then they feel like that they have to go through things like that in order to actually make it somewhere in life. They feel like that you got to hit rock bottom in order to have the drive to be better in life, which is crazy. But yeah, like some people put themselves in situations in the streets because they feel like that they need that in order to be validated, to have that street cred, to look like they really about that life. I don't want to be about that life. I want to be able to have money to support my family.
I want all my kids to be future Elon Musk. And the reason why I say that there is because Elon Musk's father, for those who don't know, was a millionaire. Actually, yeah, he was a millionaire in the 80s, man, like multi-millionaire. Actually a billionaire, if I'm not mistaken. He owned an emerald mine in some part of Africa that he had made a deal with somebody with. It was like, I forgot exactly how the article went, but anyways, he owned half of a mine, half of the emerald mines for the better part of like 20 years. That was in Africa, making him millions of dollars a day. So Elon comes from a substantial amount of wealth, but despite coming from the wealth that he comes from, he still went out, he still created PayPal when he was in high school, sold that for 100 million, invested majority of that money into SpaceX and Tesla, and now he's worth 240 something or 250 billion or something like that. So he didn't come from the mud, came from money, and more than 100x the money that he came from. So like you're saying, you don't have to come from the mud to make it. And I'm not gonna not respect him because he came from money and made even more money. It's almost similar to when Donald Trump talks about, his dad gave him $1 million loan, a small loan of $1 million. People laugh like, oh my God, $1 million. Oh man, that's terrible. But if you understand it, like, one, just because somebody gives you $1 million, don't mean you can make $1 billion out of it, or you could make anything out of it. You could borrow somebody $1 million and still blow it and buying dumb stuff. Most, NFL, NBA athletes, when they make that first $1 million contract, they end up broke, within a year, because one, they don't pay no taxes, or they don't understand the concept of, putting up half of that money for taxes. Two, they go buy a car, they go buy some jewelry, they go buy a house, and they pop bottles, that's the first week of them cashing their money. So now they're broke. So it's really easy to mess it up when you do you get that first million, or you do come from money, because you may like the motivation because you're not coming from the mud, but that still doesn't change the fact that if an artist is making music and they talk about living from their life, and just because they talk about coming from the streets, that now gives somebody the reason or justification to say, you know what, I'm gonna run down on this man and kill him. That mentality that I don't understand that. To me, like it still doesn't.
Now, I'm not saying to give them justification. What I'm saying is, if you talk about that life like that, somebody that's trying to rob, remember, everybody that try to do harm to you, people say that, the stupidest thing that they say nowadays is these young boys don't care. When you see somebody spray everybody at the corner to try to shoot somebody in a moving car or while they running away, they doing it because they care about living. Otherwise, they would try to make sure they was up and personal and kill that person. So the guys that's listening to these lyrics and they thinking that this guy's living the real lifestyle, they saying to themselves, I do want to do them harm, but I don't want to get killed. So this is the level of force. They determine the level of force from that a lot of times. And I think that's the problem.
That's possible, but like, I mean, at any rate, like I don't feel like that a lot of people like, you know, is that big of a deal for me to be up close and personal, especially like if, like I said, we don't know the situation, we don't know the scenarios. Like, I don't think like any gang member really like jump out of a car up close and personal. Everything was like drive by, things like that. Like, I'm not in a gang, so I'm like, you know.
No, it ain't like that all the time.
But
No,
like,
not all the time. But I understand what you're saying. But my point is, they want to live.
no, so
Otherwise, they would do something
self-preservation.
differently.
So everybody care about themselves. The point is they don't care about everybody else. Like
Well, that's
if I'm
true.
trying to kill you, if I'm trying to kill you and you in Ruben barbershop getting a cut, like if I cared about everybody else, I would walk in the barbershop. You're not going nowhere, shoot you in the head and walk out. But I don't care about
I
everybody
agree
else,
with you.
so I'm gonna shoot through the window and shoot everybody else up, and hopefully I hit you.
And hopefully, because I'm speeding off and running away from you while I'm shooting, I'm not going to get shot when the other people start shooting back.
Nah,
My
I
point
know
was that
where Ruben see that. You ain't going nowhere. You trapped. You caught. But see, that's what I'm saying. Like, they don't, it's not that they don't care. Like, they don't care about everybody else. Like, they care about self-preservation.
well, that's what I'm saying. But
I
people
don't
sit
know
down there and
necessarily
think
they
people
care about
don't care.
self-preservation too, though, man. I think what one of the things people got to realize is, for one, the same people that yell and scream about how times are worse now, youth are dying at an accelerated rate now, and blah blah blah. Got to remember that up until like maybe 50 years ago, you know, life expectancy was only about what, 47, 50. So if you were like 30, you old as hell. Like, you already lived more than half your life by the time you reach 30 years old. A lot of people seem to forget the amount of youth that died, you know, 16, 17, 18 in wars, whether it was Civil War or World War I or World War II, Vietnam War. Majority of the death that happened were from 16, 17, 18-year-olds, you know, that were in the army. You might say, okay, well, you're not gonna be 16 in the army, but people were forging their age. And because if my friend's getting drafted and everybody else is going off to the war, and it seems like a noble thing to do, these guys like, I'm not staying back here and being no punk. You know, I'm gonna go fight for my country.
Well, what you say is true. But if you go back even further, we talking 13, 14, you ain't got no choice. You gonna grab your shield and your sword and you gonna get on that line, or we gonna kill you for not going, because this is what you had to do. So you're right about that. Life expectancy has changed things. And then people kind of like the reasonable doubt of your maturity at your age has gone up. Like when young boys do stuff, they'll be like, oh, they young, they don't know any better. Okay, but at 14 or 15, you know you shouldn't shoot somebody. Like, that's not something that you don't not know. Or stab somebody or run them over with a car. You know, you know these things. You know, you were considered 100 years ago, you were considered like a man. They would have married you off at like 16. You know, 150 years ago, 200 years ago, especially like past that time. So I understand what you're saying. The life expectancy kind of like changed that, but you're still responsible at a young age. Like, I don't understand how do you get a pass at that, you know. But like Aaron said before, we kind of like weaving off topic. Go ahead, Aaron.
I said a lot of the media, a lot of things that kids watch and things that they're fed it desensitized them to violence. Like it doesn't, it seems more cool than what it actually is. Like
when has violence not been, when have we not been desensitized to violence though? Like in what era of time did society go through to where like we were not desensitized to violence? Like you got pictures of Black folks hanging from trees, you know, black and white, all throughout history of this country. Like when have we not been like, and you got little kids, you got 3, 4, 5-year-olds watching somebody being hung. They used to have watch parties, of killing folks. Like people, you know, they had hangings. Has been beheadings, hangings. Like murderers, like murdering someone, killing someone has always been a spectacle that society has been desensitized to for generations.
Yes, exactly, for generations, because it doesn't happen overnight. Like you're not just going to watch something and then be desensitized to it. Like even before us, they were desensitized to it, leading up to us and into our children. What game was your son playing?
I'm not even really sure, to be honest.
So like
he's 15.
All the games so. Now, even going into arcade,
everything involves killing though. So you know, like whatever game that they're playing, you know, it's some type of murdering happening in one way, shape, or form. Even if you're playing like Dragon Ball Z, for instance, you gotta kill your opponent. You know, so
like it's just a lot different. Like I know when I was growing up, like we had like duck hunt, but like we wasn't really allowed to play like a lot of the.
You were still shooting though.
I understand that, but now we had the little gun. Our kids now got shotguns.
Well, I mean, even for my generation, like before the video game, shit, you had Yosemite Sam, Elmer Fudd. They was plugging cats in them cartoons. The Road Runner and Wile E. Coyote. You know what I mean? He was dropping bombs on the boy. So Tom and Jerry.
He ain't never died though.
Yeah, but still, the violence, yo, the violence was just crazy. So we are kind of desensitized to violence because we see it ain't nothing new. It's just a new form of it in the video games and in your music. Like now, you had it in your music over history, but not as much as you have it in your music now. Because you always had music when they said they do certain things, and we just didn't pick up on it when we was kids. Now that we older, they not even like trying to hide it. They tell you exactly what they want to do to somebody.
Because when it comes to drugs, alcohol, sex, people talked about those things in every genre of music all through times. Like you said, they just had to be clever about it. When you hear the song "Me and Mrs. Jones," we got a thing going on. You know, my man's talking about shooting up. A lot of people don't even realize that. You know, they meeting up at the same booth at 3:00. That's the time. That's the time. You're thinking he's talking about an affair, but in reality, you know, he's jonesing for his drugs. just
okay.
at level.
You're absolutely right, and there's a lot of songs where they talk about raping people too. And a lot of times, like, you know, I'm a hold it in, don't let it go. I forget what song that was, but we're gonna get to who's to blame, and I didn't have a question prepared for that. So off the top of my head, who's to blame for the perception of these young artists was living a negative life and that's what got them killed? Because that's not necessarily true too. I think we didn't dive into that enough, but it's not necessarily true in my opinion. So Aaron, you go first. Ruben, you got like 40 seconds apiece.
Well, we're talking about the negative perception that they were living a bad life, but it had to go with the media, because the way we get the information as to, you know, who got shot, who got killed, and what happened in that situation, it all comes through media. Whatever platform it's on is still a form of media. So I would have to go through, I would have to say, blame the media on the perception of them living a negative lifestyle. You messed me up there, Mel. I had my answer already for you.
Okay. Well, Ruben.
So I thought I thought Aaron was gonna blame the parents.
No, he changed the way we was going with the questions. So I had to go to media.
I thought Aaron was gonna blame the parents. So you know, he took my answer. But I want to blame the record labels. I'm not gonna blame the media. I'm gonna blame the record labels because I feel like when those artists sign these deals, they no longer have the right to their album. They no longer have the right to their masters, and they no longer have the right to put out the music that they want to put out. They essentially sign away their rights to, you know, have the freedom that an artist has to properly, you know, put out whatever they want to put out when they want to put it out. So the record label is who I would blame for the outcome for a lot of these, for the music that these artists put out, and to an extent for their shortened lifestyle too, because not lifestyle, but for their shortened life. I don't know why.
Okay, so I'm gonna jump in because we're almost up against time. So you blame the media, you blame the record labels. I'm gonna say it's a little bit of both, but the record labels are gonna put out a product that they know is gonna sell. So as long as people buy it and it's okay, they're gonna still put that product out. It's no different than somebody putting out a candy bar that everybody buys or a soda that everybody buys, even though they know it's not good for you. As far as the media goes, the media puts out that perception that, you know, they live that lifestyle and they got pop. The truth of the matter is, just like Ruben said about the guy recently, a lot of times these guys be doing community service, and that's when the shit happens. They go back to the neighborhood to do something for the neighborhood, and then that's when the bad shit happened because they distance themselves from that negativity, and now they're going back into it. I don't want them to stop helping communities, but it's got to be a better way to do it. So their safety is paramount. So I want to thank everybody for joining us for Combustible Elements. I'm Big Mel. I'm joined by Ruben the Monarch, Aaron the Hitman. We're back. We're out here on all platforms. Tune in, leave a comment, leave a message. Let's talk. Let's move forward. Thank you. Peace out, guys.